UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
You're listening to Star Trek Weekly News. I'm Tony Robinson. In this week's news we ask, who is the Red Angel? We binge watch with Patrick Stewart. And Morgan Woodward passes away. All this and more coming right up. Well, we're getting close to discovering who the Red Angel actually is, and everybody's got a theory. And Andrew DePledge at Red Shirts Always Die has his, and here's what he has to say. Since the first appearance of Star Trek Discovery's Red Angel, fans have come up with theories about who she is, but the only thing we know so far is who she's not. So let's stop for a moment and consider the Red Angel's actions. So far she, yes, you read that right, she, has been seen by Michael Burnham on an asteroid that was about to be destroyed just before she was rescued from certain death, in a church surrounded by soldiers and would-be refugees during World War III, on Vulcan when Spock was young, and on Kaminar when the Baul threatened to exterminate the Kelpians. The next most common fan theory is that we're seeing the Iconians, but judging by their known history as demons of air and darkness who are known to set up bases all around the galaxy, and that they were destroyed some 200,000 years earlier, that they were the most likely conquerors, or at the very least colonialists as opposed to benevolent angels. We also have no reason to believe that they invented time travel technology. Furthermore, we saw in The Sounds of Thunder, the arrival of the Red Angel didn't exactly mesh with the doorway method we saw in Star Trek The Next Generation, so it would seem unlikely the Angel is Iconian. And Kevin Finch at Red Shirts Always Die chipped in and said that we may be seeing Davidians. But while the glowing look and time travel are potential matches, and even setting up a future harvest on New Eden would make sense for their motives, we still run into a couple of major issues. The first and most obvious being their invisibility due to a phase variance. Unfortunately, this almost immediately takes it out of the running, except that we know they're able to take human form later in Time's Arrow. The remaining problem is the Red Angel's other actions. Saving the Kelpians may make as much sense as planting a human garden on New Eden, but this wouldn't explain why they can't just harvest the Kelpians in the past, when they're still abundant, or why they would help in saving a medical frigate with only a few people aboard. It seems unlikely that she is Davidian. Another fan theory is that we're looking at a member of either the Preservers or the Progenitors, but again, this doesn't fit. The Preservers were known to step in and protect primitive cultures from going extinct. One could argue that the Kelpians meet the criteria as they stand, but essentially they are living proof of their evolved form being made extinct by the Baul. So assuming time travel, why not save them 1,000 years earlier? Also, this wouldn't explain helping the medical freighters, as there wasn't enough preservation involved in saving a handful of different near-death crew members on one small ship. The Progenitors, on the other hand, certainly had no time travel technology. If they had, they would have been able to do better than to encode a message in DNA. They would instead have simply come to know us, not being alone was essentially their entire motivation. Future Kirk or future Pike? Well, the idea of it being either is impossibly ridiculous, yet we know that the future man in the Star Trek Enterprise was most likely eventually going to be a future version of Captain Jonathan Archer, so it's not impossible that an overzealous writer could come up with these two as candidates also. But there's one key difference between Archer and Kirk or Spike, and that we already know their timelines, fates and futures. Yes, you can argue about alternate and aborted timelines, but neither would take on the actions the Red Angel has. They wouldn't worry about saving a human child on Vulcan or a medical freighter when they could use their powers to simply stop the war altogether, or to save a handful of people from a church during a war that happened long before they were born. It just doesn't fit. And also, they're male. Somehow the Red Angel seems to be following Michael Burnham's life. She saved her as a child, appeared to her brother, appeared to her and now seems interested in Discovery. Also, Michael is female. So many things fit the bill, but not everything fits nicely. Assuming Michael is the Red Angel, we know with absolute certainty that time travel needs to be involved, otherwise she can't be in two places at once, or have a futuristic Ant-Man and the Wasp suit. But that's where the theory falls apart. Michael's greatest regret is Philippa Georgiou. Nothing would have stopped Michael with a time machine from saving her over Jet Reno, or Saru's friends, or a group of World War III survivors, or her younger self. Again, you could argue that there may have been a reason she had to save her younger self. Maybe a time-travelling villain tried to wipe her off the timeline using logic extremists as a cover, and she kept herself on board. Maybe Jet will become a great leader one day. Maybe the Kelpians, who we never see again in the Star Trek universe, sacrificed themselves to save the galaxy only because they now lack fear. And you might be right, but there's still that pesky little matter of New Eden. We can't say one of the saved on New Eden is her great-great-grandfather, because they had no contact outside their village for centuries, so they couldn't be. The war was so long ago that removing a survivor would be inexact at best, and assassination would do at worst, so it's not that either. Michael has no motives to have made a technological backwater like New Eden, especially when the trip could have been used to prevent a war or save her mentor. So, who is she, and why is it a she anyways? Why is it a she? Well, easy. You've seen the pictures, really. Look at it, and study it. Then assume this isn't a rough render they thought we'd never see again. They know we're Trekkies. They know we obsess. They know we pay attention. It's a woman. That doesn't rule out multiple gender non-specific angels working in tandem. But this one is a female actress, or a CG model, and it's not an accident. So, who is she? No clue. We've spent many an hour pondering it, but the truth is she could just as soon be a hologram as a rogue red flying Borg, as a right-wing flying Bowel. The best and brightest have spent the past months trying to answer that question, but we don't have all the clues yet, so all we can do is eliminate the impossible, and whatever's left, however unlikely, must be the truth. Well, Patrick Stewart has some news, and it's that the series he's about to appear in will not be episodic, and he wants fans to binge watch. Star Trek fans should set aside some extra time later this year. Patrick Stewart teases that his return to Star Trek as Jean-Luc Picard will be a binge-worthy affair. He spoke to Yahoo, and he teased that the new series will be different from Star Trek The Next Generation. Where The Next Generation told episodic stories, the new Picard series will tell one long tale over the course of its first season, and hopefully beyond.
What we have coming up is exciting. It's exciting for me because it excites me as an actor.
Right.
Oh, the story is great. And I could be so careful what I say, or they'll skin me alive if I say the wrong things. But it's it references the present day at times. And that's all I can say, really. Right. I'm not saying we're in the present day. We're not. Right. We're not. But the world that we find Jean-Luc Picard in is not quite the world that we left him in. And with this first series, and this is one of the things that's so interesting about the writer's room, they are writing a 10-hour movie. So we're not just, in Next Generation, it was a story, a different story, but with the same characters, as many, many series are. But this time, it is one story from beginning to end.
So based on Stewart's description, it sounds like the new Picard series will embrace the season-long arc structure that has characterized most of Netflix's original scripted series and even Star Trek Discovery. Unlike Netflix's original series, fans most likely won't be able to binge Picard immediately, since the series will probably be released week to week, like Discovery, rather than all at once as Netflix releases its originals. At the TCA 2019 Winter Press Tour, producer Alex Kurtzman explained some of how Picard will be different from The Next Generation. Everybody in the writer's room loves Jean-Luc Picard very deeply, and obviously the benefit that we have is that Jean-Luc Picard is in the room with us, Kurtzman said. And so, as we're breaking story, we're asking ourselves, how do we live to the spirit and to the character and for the tone that Next Generation set, but also make it something very, very different in other ways? And Patrick was really clear with us from the beginning. He did not want to repeat what he had already done. And by the way, it's been 20 plus years, so he couldn't possibly be that same person anymore. And so the question becomes, what has happened to him in that period of time? Have there been occurrences that forced him to reckon with choices that he's made in his life? How do you hold on to being the person everybody loved when the circumstances around you may have changed so radically? And those are the big questions that we're asking. So are we excited about the new Picard series? Damn right. The Picard series is expected to debut in late 2019 on CBS All Access. Not long to go now. Star Trek fans this week are saddened at the death of Morgan Woodward, who starred in Dallas, but of course Star Trek. Morgan Woodward, who appeared in more than 250 movies and TV shows during a 40-year acting career, died in Paso Robles in California on February 22nd at the age of 93. The versatile character actor played oilman Marvin Punk Anderson on the TV show Dallas in 55 episodes from 1980 to 1987, but also had 2 appearances on the original Star Trek series. He was Elder Morgan in the film Logan's Run and was a regular on the long-running Gunsmoke TV series. The veteran actor played hard-bitten or menacing types. Woodward grew up in Arlington, Texas, one of 5 brothers. He obtained a pilot's license and served in World War II in the Army Air Corps and in the Korean War in the Military Air Transport Command. His acting career began at Arlington State College, where he majored in music and drama, but later returned to school and obtained a degree in corporate finance from the University of Texas in 1948. After several years of work in music, he moved to Hollywood in 1955, hoping to break into musicals. He appeared in such films as Walt Disney's The Great Locomotive Chase and Westward Ho! The Wagons. He then starred opposite Hugh O'Brien in The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp, playing Earp Deputy Shotgun Gibbs for 4 seasons. That role stamped him in westerns, and he went on to appearances in Gunsmoke and Wagon Train. Woodward's biggest film role was in Cool Hand Luke, where he played an overseer known as the Man with No Eyes, thanks to his reflective sunglasses. He went on to become the first human to mind meld with Mr. Spock on Star Trek. Woodward was awarded the Golden Boot Award from the Hollywood Motion Picture and Television Fund in August 1988, and was inducted into the Hall of Great Western Performers at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. Well, Morgan, we're sad to see you go, and there are many Star Trek fans out there who are shedding a tear for you right now. So as we leave you this evening, there is